awakening to universal knowledge and consciousness through uplifting interviews and soul-stirring conversations to help you realize the divine power, force, and energy inside of you, your Sacred Valley. Expand your mind and free your spirit with Sacred Valley Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sacred Valley. Today is August 19th. My name is Tara Crete. I am your host today. Boy, what a world we are living in right now. Before I bring on today's guest, I just want to talk about how we are living in such unprecedented times right now. Never before has our country, has our world seen such divide going on. It seems as though every single day in the news cycle, there is a more dramatic story that happened the day before. And each story comes with its own set of passions, and it creates a lot of angst in a lot of us because it seems as though many of us are looking at the same event, but seeing it through different lenses, which tends to create a lot of division. We all have our own interpretations, and that causes debates. It causes downright arguments between some people and even splits in relationships. And we can't look to our past. We can't look to our history to find out how to navigate our way through this, because I really do believe everything is so new right now. Now, I also believe it's very exciting. I created Sacred Valley to help people, and myself included. Whenever I'm trying to help someone else, believe me, I'm always the first one in line. Never perfect. I feel like John Lennon said a long time ago, the more I know, the less I understand. I created Sacred Valley partly so that we could learn how to navigate our way through the spiritual side of our life, that God-centered part, but also the human life, because we are here on earth. We are here to be human. We are here to have emotions and passions and feel anger and all the other wonderful things that go on with being human. But I want to be able to straddle those two subjects. And I will admit, I have definitely been more involved. The scales have been tipped toward the human side, the personality side, because I really think this is such an exciting time to be alive. I can get drawn into the drama as well, but then I very quickly step back and I'm watching it all. And I just find it all so fascinating. I'm hoping that our guest today will be able to shed some light on this subject of division. So I had Will on before, just a quick little recap as to who he is. He's a world traveler. He's a Reiki master and a healer. He's a teacher, a devout student of the Course in Miracles. And he's just an all-around mystic and searcher of all things spiritual. I want to welcome you back to the show, Will. It's so nice to have you.
Tara, it's an absolute pleasure, and it's good to see you. And
it's always good to see you. Everyone loved you last time. And, I'm really looking forward myself to hearing your wisdom, and you tend to give me and other people a different way to see the reality of what's going on. I am really interested in, for myself, tipping the scale back into, okay, we're spiritual beings living in a human world, but I'm so excited about what's going on right now. I just find it all so fascinating. So I can't wait to hear your point of view on the illusion of the division that we're living in now. What say you?
Tara, it is a wonderful time to be alive. It's very scary because the paradigms are changing so fast. But we've been given all the tools to become aware of what is actually happening out there. And it is about our default to separation. It's about how we see reality. And how we look for the truth in a matrix of energy that you will never find truth. There is no truth in the illusion. Get used to it. We can attach ourselves to various truths and beliefs and perceptions, but there is no truth in the illusion.
There's no capital T. There's no capital truth.
No.
No.
We default. We have chosen to experience this matrix that we call reality, or I've been calling it an illusion for a long time, and I get a lot of enemies. My family say, "How can you say it's an illusion? It's real. Feel it, touch it." And uh, in the Course of Miracles, there's a very good guidance where it says, you only see what you perceive. Now, we think it happens the other way around, that we look at something and we perceive it. But it has been, well, proved. Can anything be proved? But it's a fairly well accepted concept that we have to perceive something before we can see it. Now, what is seeing? Seeing is to receive the light from an object, and it gets projected on the back of our eyes as a matter of interest, upside down, because light travels through a lens and then inverts.
Correct.
So we are seeing everything upside down, but our brain is so clever that it turns it the right way around and makes sense of it. Now that should indicate to us the fragility, fragileness of what we see is real. But as long as it fits into our perception of reality, we make sense of it. Now, making sense of something is not, we are not able to use that to say it's true. And this is this argument or the discussion that I have with my family, and they say, how can you say it's an illusion? It's so real. Well, everybody sees something differently. And the one example that I use quite often is you're sitting having a drink and you say, right, there's a coffee mug. I'm holding a coffee mug here. Do we all agree? Oh, yeah, we agree. It's a coffee mug. That's no problem. Because my background is in pottery, I look at that coffee mug and I say, well, it's actually an earthenware or porcelain or bone china.
Right.
It's a subtle difference, but it's a difference. I want to turn it upside down and see who the manufacturer is. I want to look at that coffee mug and see if it's been well glazed or if it's been overfired, because I know. I want to look at the decoration to see whether it's an underglazed decoration or an unglazed decoration.
Yeah, you're looking at it through your own lenses.
I'm looking at it through my own lens of historical experience
Correct.
that I have, which are unique to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll find someone else who's also interested in the fact that it's made of a certain type of clay. Yes. And we'll talk about it like that. But that is consensus. That is looking for your reality in the consensus of a group. And it's very comfortable to put ourselves in different bubbles of consensus.
It is. And that is happening so much right now because you mentioned separation. And I really, truly believe that the powers that be, whoever, whatever they are, this is all by design. This division that's being created keeps us distracted. It keeps us fighting with one another. It keeps me thinking I'm better than you or vice versa. When in reality, we're all really on the same page. We all really want the same pursuits of happiness, life, liberty, all the freedoms that were God given to us. Yet right now, we're so busy fighting against one another that we're not paying attention to what they're doing.
Beautifully put, because that's exactly what is occurring. And it's occurring for a very good reason. And one has to look at the origins of separation. Just quickly, I might have mentioned them last time, I'm not sure. We chose, and that's another story, we chose to separate ourselves from our prime creator. And we did that by choosing form as opposed to continuing in our formless state, a fractal of energy of the prime creator. And so now we wanted to become form, because form most effectively separated ourselves from formlessness. That is the state of our prime creator.
Right.
Hard to argue with that one. But just quickly, because I'm sure I've touched on this. So we give ourselves the mechanism to become form by choosing a name, as it so happens. And then we immediately fall into the unholy trinity of sin, guilt, and fear. Sin because we have actually thought that we have separated ourselves from God, which is impossible because we can't. Sin, we feel guilty about it, and we feel fearful of retribution. Now, okay, let's move on from there. Because by moving on from there, we find ourselves in the trickle down effect of creating a reality virtually out of nothing. We were given the most beautiful playground, which we call Earth, presided over by a most beautiful intelligence, consciousness called Gaia, and other
Terra. Yeah.
Gaia, but whatever the label you want to give it, that's not a problem.
Sure.
So we now we've lost our powers of creation, but not to the point that we can't design for ourselves within the illusion and with the energy that we have derived from thought. Everything that we know within this illusion is a product of thought. And the more people think the same, the more we can design a reality that fills our bubble with solid things. So
Yes.
now, and sorry, carry on.
No, you're right. And I loved what you said about how sin is the separation from God. That's one of the best descriptions I've heard, because I struggle with that word, sin. It's never sat well with me. The God that I've always loved and has been in my life is never going to punish me for not knowing who he is, or for being jealous that I'm idolizing someone else. So I love that you said the ultimate sin is the separation from God, because the reality is we cannot separate ourselves. No. There is a veil of illusion. I believe it's a contract that we agree to before we come through the womb and we become human. And we agree to not remember. We agree to not know where we came from.
That veil of forgetfulness.
Yes.
And initially it was fairly weak, and then we agreed to make it more and more solid. So we blocked the function of spirit.
We have
from our reality entirely. I must go back to that word sin, because it also bothered me. Because I have a devout Christian in my family, and she says, "Well, we were all born in sin. You, me. I'm born in sin." In a way, she is correct. We're all born into the illusion of sin.
Right.
We're not the reality of sin. But let's go to that word, because, every word has an archetypal energy attached to it. And sometimes I look at a word and I say, well, I think I know what that means. But I want to go back to its origins. And they're not always correct, because they come out of perception. But
right.
let's assume for this 1 minute that
it is correct. Right.
It's worthwhile following. So we can follow the energetics of a word by going to its origin. Let's go to the origin of the word sin. It was used in Greece, and it was applied to the process of the men in the army practicing to shoot their arrows. Okay, the archers. And when they missed the bullseye, they were told that they had sinned. They had missed the mark.
Yes.
Sin is a Greek word, and it is for missing the mark, and that's all we do. When we think that we are separate from God, we're missing the mark. We're not getting it. We're not getting our thoughts in the bullseye. But okay, so we
yes, thank you for saying that, because 2 weeks ago I had a guest on, and he's coming back on as well, Mr. Roberto, my friend Roberto Hernandez, and that's how he explained sin, and I loved his definition: missing the mark. It's not something where it's not such a negative connotation where we forgot about the separation and we've missed the mark. I love it.
Sorry, I'll keep practicing. I'll keep practicing.
I'm going to keep practicing too. Right. Yes.
We all
thank
need
you.
to.
Okay.
We all need to. Sin, guilt, and fear. Where were we?
Yeah, we're on the fear, so the guilt leads to fear.
Fear is fear of survival most of the time. We feel threatened. Our survival feels threatened on all sorts of different levels. And the main one is physical. Okay, so we think we've got to survive physically. When we're dead, well, we're not sure what happens. But this body is so important to us that we need to protect it. Come hell or high water, we need to protect it, and both of which will probably come. But not really. I'm being flippant. So I've
we
missed
want to
my track.
survive, so we're
Yeah, the
we all
survival.
want to survive.
So we've got our physical survival. We have our mental survival. We have our social survival. We have our economic survival, and probably a whole lot more that I can't put my finger on at the moment. But it's all about survival. We worry about things changing. We worry about things dying. We worry about we just filled with fear, so that we hold that vibration of fear constantly. We default to fear, and if somebody gives us a good reason to increase that fear, you're feeding it. You're feeding something that has already got lots of food, and it just thrives in this whole ecology of fear that we default to. And it is a default mechanism, because default actually implies the forgetting that we have free will choice. And we have free will choice, and we might say, well, what is that choice? It's, I don't know when I'm choosing wrong or right, but I sometimes do. But what is that free will? It's simple as this. We choose the mind of the ego, or we choose the mind of God. Now, this is the question to ask myself. Well, who is the mind of God? I don't know. I don't know what the mind. All my life, I from early days, I was sensitive to being in an environment that seemed to threaten me, and I was a very sensitive person. And I could see in others how sensitive they were, and it really, my heart was always wanting to care for people who were in any suffering, and animals and birds especially. I had but anyway, we have a choice, a free will choice, and the truth of the matter is that we don't choose at all. 90% of the time, we're not choosing. We live by default.
But isn't that a choice? But isn't not choosing also a choice, though, in a way?
In a way, you're quite right. But it takes away our power of choice.
Correct.
Oh, it's easier just to default. Yep. Absolutely. And we default into sin, guilt, and fear and separation. That is the default that we are experiencing. Now,
but when can I say, isn't this what, because to me, what you're explaining is so spot on. It's so perfect. It's such a great way to break it down. But it really does feel like right now it is being ramped up. The division has never been more palpable. It has never been more seemingly real. You and I know the division isn't real, but I said earlier, I can get caught up in it. That my personality side, the Tara side of me that is human, when I wake up in the morning, I'm excited to jump into the stream of the day's news cycle and what's going on, because I really do find today's world very interesting. I'm very excited for what's coming. It's daunting at the same time, but I can get wrapped up in that fear, and I'm guilty of it myself. Is that what's happening? Doesn't it seem a little stronger to you?
Very much so. I love it. I love it because it gives me something to make sense out of nonsense, you know, and it just defines separation so clearly. Um, um, this latest thing
In the
in
Middle East.
Afghanistan
Mhm.
it is so obviously illogical. But that's my logic. My
Right.
logic says, I mean, my logic said right from the beginning, what is a what is a virus? I wanted to know what a virus was, and why did I have this preconceived idea that a virus was a demon to my body? Well, we're told it's a germ, it's a pathogen. uh, it falls into that category, almost the same category as a bacteria. But there are some good bacteria, but I don't think there are
Mhm.
any good um, viruses, are there? I don't know. And then I thought, well, what are they doing in our bodies? And we know that the bacteria, they we need them to digest. Okay, yay, okay, but a virus, a demon of demons, to our body. How many viruses are there in the body, by the way?
Mm.
I don't know how they count them, but they said I've got two figures. I've got one of 380 trillion and another one of 400 trillion. Not too far apart.
Mm.
Probably doesn't make any
They probably
difference.
used an abacus or some sort of counter.
I don't know. I don't know, but that's what I looked it up. You see, and I thought, oh, there that many. How many cells are there in the body? Now that's an easier one, I think, to count. 100 trillion.
It's a much smaller number.
Yay! And what are they doing there?
Mm.
We've got a good idea about the cells. You know, without cells, we've got blood and all,
Mm.
no, blood cells and going. Anyway, I know I digress, but the point is this: that I had to follow logic and say, why are there 380 or 400 trillion of these little buggers called viruses? Would God put them in there to irritate us, to challenge us, to
Eradicate us?
eradicate us? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I had to say no, no, no. They've got a function. What is their function? And I found one, and it said they're like the janitorial system of our body. Oh, okay. So they clean up agents. Yes, they can only enter a cell when that cell has been compromised. Oh, so they don't just go about their daily business attacking cells. No, they can't get in. The cell's membrane around it is too powerful. But as soon as that cell is compromised, and it could be compromised just because it's ended its cycle. And we know that cells reproduce all the time. So think of 100 trillion reproducing themselves over staggered times. There must be an awful lot of garbage
Oh, I would assume
to get
so.
rid of. And the janitorial system called our virus, our viral colony, comes along and does just that. And what compromises a cell other than its natural life cycle? What do you think compromises any one of our cells more than any? Well, no, let's just do the normal: the food we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink. Okay?
The thoughts we think.
It's the thoughts we think.
Hmm.
That is the biggest danger. And what is the biggest of them all? Fear.
Fear. Because our cells, I learned this when I studied a little bit of quantum mechanics, our cells obey our thoughts.
They listen to you all the time.
Yes.
I was told, a long time ago, I said to my dear sister, and I said to her, when was the last time that you thanked the cells of your body for all the work they do 24
Hmm.
hours a day? She said, well, what for? I said, aren't you grateful for
Yeah.
what the cells of your body are doing, whether you're awake or asleep? Something's controlling them. So just give thanks to them. And she has ever since, and that's probably 25 years ago. And she always mentions it. She says, you know, when I talk to the cells of my body, I can feel them vibrate.
Do you know that you probably changed her life immensely? Because the power of gratitude it's almost becoming a cliche, because we've been hearing about
I
it now.
know.
Oprah Winfrey
I
started with
agree.
the
Yeah.
gratitude journal, and
Huge.
back in the 90s. But the reality is, gratitude is so powerful because it's the emotion behind it. The word itself is what it is, but that's
Yes.
not the word of God. God
Yes.
doesn't have words, right? There's an emotion, there's a thought that goes with the vernacular of Great Spirit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Can we tie that gratitude, because I love that you brought that up, back to, because I'm grateful for what we have going on, and even in the mystery of life, like right now, there's so much division, and I'm experiencing it in family, within family and friends, because that veil of illusion has never been thicker. It's never been what is seemingly more palpable. But you and I can see past it. I can see past it a lot. I'm not there 100% of the time. Like I said, I can get very caught up in the personality side of things. But how do we tie in gratitude to ourselves into the fear of what's going on in the world today, Will?
To release yourself from the illusion. And you do it through a simple, I was given this just recently through a local mystic, if you want to call her that, but she has a connection to ascended masters that she calls her management. But the ascended masters, her ascended masters said to me, give yourself permission to release and let go, to open your entire body to receive. And when I saw them again a few months after that initial, they said to me, remember what you are releasing and let going. You are releasing, you are asking to release yourself from all ego-based thoughts. And remember our default. We default to the ego. We don't default to the mind of God. We default to the mind of the ego. We have to make a special attempt and a special desire. You know, the Course of Miracles says, show a little willingness. That's all, a little willingness. But we don't often even do that. Every cell has an antennae receiving our thoughts and our words. Every one of them. And that is why it's a very good idea to bless your food. The blessing is picked up by our cells of the body and probably the cells of the food to only receive that part of the food that is resonating at a frequency of its highest light.
Correct.
So that our cells of our body can absorb just light, so they don't have to poop out so much.
Correct. So what you're talking about really is by allowing in that little bit of free will, defaulting to the mind of God versus the mind of ego. It's the free will that we were given. God cannot come in and automatically just show himself. It's almost like a law that God has. We are going back to God. I believe that. And if someone doesn't agree with that, that's a-okay. No one has to believe anything that I say.
Nope.
In fact, I recommend you go and do your own research. Don't believe everything I say.
100%.
But if we're defaulting to the mind of God, we chose to have that illusion, but God cannot insert himself without our permission. Because we have free will.
Not within the illusion, because remember, the illusion doesn't exist in God's eyes.
Right.
It's just a dream. It's that same old thing that I said to you last time, you know. You'll listen to my dream, but oh, okay, well, that sounds interesting. What's that all about? I don't know. Don't mind. Don't care. Don't care. God doesn't care about the illusion. Only cares about one thing. Spirit. You were created in the image of God, and that was formless. Let's give it another name. Spirit. Holy Spirit, if you feel that way inclined.
Sure.
It is holy, but you don't even have to. But sometimes by using the word Holy Spirit, you are separating yourself even from your holiest part of you. Sorry. holiest part of you, which is spirit, the unseen, the formlessness of who you are. Once you acknowledge that, you start to reconnect to the voice for God. And that's the showing the little willingness and saying, I'm not this body. Oh, gee, how can you say that? Of course I'm this body. No. The body is in a dream, but spirit is in the body of God, or the creator, or the prime creator. Oh, call it what you
Spirit,
like.
ascribe your own word. I know this so hard to, I don't even have one word that the English language or any language can use to, it's such a limiting language. Trying to speak the word of God or the language of God is very, very limiting. I forgot what I was going to say. It was something, it was really, really important, but I can't remember. It was something that you just said. Carry on. I think I'm going to get back to it.
It's a connection to spirit, that showing a little willingness that is so important. And that's all you have to do. And I'm going to carry that further. I'm going to carry that further when you give me a moment.
No,
if you want.
please
go.
You're
right. Thanks. I have to thank the presence of my guides, my entourage, and spirit. Always recognize the presence of the entourage. The entourage, my entourage, your entourage. It's a nice word to encapsulate the help that we are given in this illusion by the ascended masters, by the teachers of teachers, by the angelic realm. Now, not only the terrestrial angelic realm, which is very powerful, and my particular angel is Archangel Michael, and he is beautiful with wings, but he carries a sword, which
he's massive too, isn't he?
He uses that sword. I request that he use that sword, or he gives me the sword to cut myself loose from sin, guilt, and fear. Okay, cut that attachment that I have, and I have to do it more than once, because that default is so powerful. I go off on these beautiful diversions. I'm sorry.
Don't worry, I'm right with you there. It's like a quagmire of confusion that we have. I always say this: we're in our bodies. We live our lives every day. We wake up with ourselves, and I know that our souls have a purpose. I truly believe that. But yet, sometimes we can go through our whole life and never know what it is, and just
that's okay.
Being conscious with the personality, being conscious with the ego side of self, and not having that conversation. I don't know if I have an entourage. I love that you call it that. And even the management. I like what your friend calls it too.
It is a nice. Oh, I was just going to. So we've got the terrestrial angelic realm. I believe in fairies, because something looks after the plants and the beautiful flowers that I love so much. It's an energy. We call it fairy energy. We got the divas. We got the head of all divas and nature spirits, King Jin, DJIN. It's a hierarchy of energy that is arranged to look after nature, the animals, the trees, everything that contributes to the ecosystem, that contributes to our survival. And we've got, for human beings, who's probably the most difficult, because we have free choice and all the rest don't, and that free will choice, and that needs special people, and we assign the label of ascended masters and the angelic realm. There too, the angelic realm. Now, the really interesting thing, I have an angel who is very dear to me, and he's from the galactic realm. And his name is Archangel Zane. And he is acknowledged in Google, I think. But
that makes me question it immediately.
Absolutely. But they get something right. Maybe. Archangel Zane is a beautiful galactic angel. And I can always remember the one thing that he said to me, and I must share it. We were in our group, and he greeted me. He said, "Hello, Will." He said, "It's lovely to see you, and I'm so pleased that you are moving to being completely balanced." What was the word he used?
In harmony.
Where you are neither male nor female.
Genderless.
Androgynous.
Okay.
He said, "I can see that you are moving to androgyny." And I wasn't sure whether I should feel good about that or a little bit irritated, because I probably didn't understand androgyny. That meant that it doesn't mean that I was becoming less of a man. Was my reaction. As he tried to tell me I'm becoming a bit of a pufta or something like that, and I come from that age where it's very important to express your manhood and your manliness. I cried a lot when I was little, and it was I had to learn not to cry. But now
you and many little boys, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's gone through that cycle where you can cry on television. So
you can even fake cry on TV, and it counts as real now. So
I know, and so this is an angelic. This is a terrestrial from the terrestrial angelic realm, and so I now understand why he said that, and that was 20 years ago at least that he said that to me, because we are moving into. There's so much. We are moving into the Aquarian age, and the Aquarian age does not have duality. It is perfect harmony. And getting back to what we are witnessing right now, and this is what is so beautiful in the age of Pisces and before. The Ram and all those. In fact, for 6 periods before, and that's why it's so important. This new one, we go into a 6 segment, eon segment of traveling around the central sun. 12 segments make up. All right, we've done it like I don't know why. I don't know. Just accept that. But for the last 6, and each one is about 2,600, 2,596 or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's a 26,000 times 6. Prior to this have been dark times filled with separation. Now we go into the next 6, which will be filled with perfect harmony. And we can express ourselves as what God is. Prior to that, we still had a choice, because we are created in the image of God, to express ourselves as what God is or what God is not. And remember that. Because all these nasties that we give names to, the deep state and the cabal and all that, they're just expressing themselves as what God is not.
Right.
It's fine. It's fine. They're doing a job.
See, when you explain it that way, it just takes so much of the abrasiveness and the danger out of it.
It has to, because
yeah. So if the deep state, the cabal, the Satanists, we have all these terms and words. I call them the powers that be, the evil that run this world. They are just practicing being what God isn't.
And we're beginning to see it. Now, that's the important thing, because what happens is that the polarities that make up the duality and the separation, the polarities or the poles of duality are moving towards, I think I mentioned last time, they're moving towards perfect balance. We don't have to destroy them, but they've been hidden from us. We talk about esoteric. The meaning of esoteric is hidden, and that's good and bad. The bad has been hidden from us. And there's a whole lot of good that's been hidden from us. The secret schools of
enlightenment
of Egypt and that, they're all, we call them esoteric, but there's bad esoteric as well.
Absolutely.
which we actually didn't want to see because it was too horrible. There are events in history which are
Yeah.
inexplicably horrible. We don't want to see it, so we blank it off.
So
They're in our face now.
I'm excited to, I hope I'm alive for this, because I'm of the ilk where I would like to just lift the veil up. I'm kind of like, bring it. Maybe I think I'm ready. I think I am. I don't think everyone is, but I don't know. But I'm ready to jump in with both feet. To wrap up, because this went by so quickly, as always with you, you're a wealth of information. What advice can you give us, or yourself, or my viewers, the people that are listening, as to how to choose the mind of God versus the mind of ego, so that we can stop creating this division?
I lost sound. Sorry.
Oh, I can still hear you.
Yeah, no, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, so I was just wondering, we have to wrap up now. It's time to finish up, and went by so quickly. I'm just wondering what point of advice you could give someone for choosing the mind of God over ego, so in order to stop that division from taking place.
I use certain tools in order to remove myself from the mind of the ego, okay? And one of the most powerful, there are a few of them, and I'll share them quickly. Father, I awake today with miracles correcting my perception of all things. Okay? What is that saying? First of all, it's a miracle, and the course in miracles, and a lot of people, and I do say course of miracles, not a course of miracles, it's a course in miracles, and the miracle is to change a perception that are so destructive and that hold us in the illusion of separation. So in order to remove ourselves from that, we have to be brave enough to say, Father, God, anyone, God, I wake, you're making a statement. I wake today. And if it's in the middle of the day, I say, I wake today in this eternal now moment with miracles correcting my perception of all things. And the other one, I use, as I mentioned earlier, I give myself permission to release myself from the ego and open myself to receive the benevolence of God. Benevolence covers everything.
I think you're going to need to send that to me. And if anyone else wants to, I love that. This time I'm adding your email. You gave me permission. I wasn't sure, because
Yes.
you don't yet have a YouTube channel. I think you would be wonderful. People want to hear more of this.
Okay.
If anyone has a question for Will, or I love what you just said, those two beautiful prayers that are showing God and spirit that we want to interact. We're giving permission to enter into our lives and to help change things for the better, to create miracles. I firmly believe in them myself. You can contact Will at willdrew99@gmail.com. That's Will with one L. A lot of people think it's two, because his real name is Gwilym. It's not William. It's Will Drew.
It's the Welsh name, Gwilym.
It's a Welsh name. It's a beautiful name. Will, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your wisdom, your insights, and for always teaching. I've learned so much as well. I do hope you come back again next time I invite you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, all the listeners, for putting up with my style. Because
oh, you're human, and so are they. So they'll be very forgiving.
Absolutely.
Don't you worry.
Thank you, Tara.
Until
well
next
done.
time.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Keep it
I
up.
hope to. Oh, so fun. So fun. We always learn so much when I talk to him. Let's close this way. This is a very divisive world we're living in right now. And when or if I give advice, I'm giving advice to myself firstly. I am never in a position where, like I said, I think I know better than everyone. That every day that goes by, the older I get, I feel like the less I understand and the less I know. That's supposed to be on the right track, according to one of my idols, John Lennon. So, but let's all try to do something to bring in that mind of God. I know that I personally feel a shift happening, and I probably need to step back from the personality part of things and tap into that mind of God a little bit more. But if there's anything that we can do on any small scale to shorten that gap of division, to reach out and to feel more love and to feel more compassion, because I know that the language of God, if there is one language, it's love. And that's a choice that we need to make. And in this day and age, it can be a little bit difficult to make that choice. But that is my promise to myself and to all of you. I hope that you will find a way to do the same. Perhaps if we all just tap into the love a little bit more every day, things will get a little bit better. I look forward to our next time together. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks again.